Greetings. Welcome to Open Lotus Wisdom. My name is Johnny. I've been reading these cards for over 20 years. They're not tarot, they're their own system. A little bit more literal, a lot more grounded, and they're very practical for everyday life. So today, we're going to do a reading on finance and abundance. So let's transition to the cards, set our focus and intention, and see what the cards have to share with us. We'll be doing a 9-card grid. Going to set our focus for finance and abundance. And now we will draw the cards. We will begin with reading the rows across each of these. Then we'll go to columns and go down each column. And at the end, we will do diagonally, 2 diagonals going this way. Then we will do a summary of what the cards said. So the top row is past influence, and above. The heart is representing personal value or something that is deeply cherished. In this reading, it could be speaking to you about an earlier financial choice or a goal that's strongly connected to what matters emotionally. So you could have pursued income or security or a purchase because it represented freedom, comfort, generosity, or personal fulfillment. The rider in the past influence, the rider brings positive news, movement, in this placement of past influence, it could be a past message, offer, contract, or opportunity that continues to affect your finances. So the momentum may have begun through an invitation, an employment lead, or a helpful person. The stork in your above position is representing movement that stirs up stagnant matters and helps them to progress, move along. So financial change is consciously on your mind. You recognize that your present money pattern cannot remain still. Perhaps a change in income, a work structure, spending, or financial priorities is being considered here. When you have the heart and rider together, these two right here, this is something you value that may have received some fresh momentum. So something that you really cared about is now there was some fresh momentum going. The rider and the stork right next door, these are both movement cards. So the whole row of cards has an emphasis on a shift rather than any kind of stagnation. It appears that what we're seeing here is your financial story began with a meaningful goal or a heartfelt priority. And a message or an opportunity that came, it carried that goal forward. And you are now consciously preparing for a significant change in how abundance is created or managed. In the second row, the middle row, the whip, the mouse, and the snake, the whip is actually in the position of you, referred to here as the querent, and it is related to strife and tension and quarrels, pressure, or reoccurring trouble. So you may be meeting the financial situation from a place of pressure or frustration, perhaps repeated effort. It describes something like wrestling with bills, repeatedly correcting the same issue, or feeling that money requires constant struggle. The mouse next to it, it has a meaning of gradual loss, erosion, mistrust, or something quietly consuming important resources. Here we could say that the strongest current concern is not necessarily a dramatic loss. However, it is persistent. I always think of that mouse as the little nibbler, being the persistence. So this could be that small expenses or stress spending or wasted time may be reducing what you retain. And the snake in the challenge position next to the mouse, the snake typically it relates to it's kind of a difficult card because it's ambivalent, but it calls for your wisdom and caution. Near that mouse, it is advising discretion and careful handling of, let's say, unreliable circumstances. So you really want to use your wisdom and be cautious. The challenge here is complex, and you have to know that this situation cannot be handled carelessly. That's why it's calling on your wisdom. So when you're looking at things, if you're examining offers or agreements, advice, fees and promises, make sure you're just examining all that very closely. It doesn't prove that, it's not saying that there's any deception, but it does warn against revealing your full plans or accepting attractive terms without you taking the time to verify. The shiny object syndrome. So the whip, mouse, and snake, they kind of reinforce one another with as difficult cards. So here they're looking at, we're kind of looking at, they point to repeated pressure, gradual loss, and the need for a strategy. This present financial tension, it's coming because of a draining pattern, and it's been allowed to repeat. So these three cards are kind of bringing it to your attention about boundaries, detailed review, and quiet financial wisdom. and all that rather than reactive decisions. Okay. The bottom row, we have the below, future influence and outcome. The garden is a positive meeting place, a social environment. It could be an invitation. Here, when we're looking at financial concerns, I would say there's a need for connection, visibility, or community, because that's kind of what the garden is saying. So something about the connecting with people, visibility, and you may want to look at your wider network that may hold more value than you may currently realize. The star is your future influence. And the star is a wonderful card. It's wishes, luck, bright lasting future, your dreams, a wishes at hand. And here it's really giving hope and improvement, pointing toward improvement to begin after all this present strain and stress. So if you have a clearer long-term vision or a better direction, you can restore confidence that you may have lost and begin to correct the current lost pattern. The ring is a positive bond, and it's a commitment. It could be an agreement. I would say that if this present pattern continues with greater awareness, the likely direction is a meaningful agreement or a sustained commitment for you. But you have to keep that pattern. There could be an ongoing client or relationship, partnership, a repayment plan, a subscription type based income, or a commitment to your own financial structure is what it's pointing to. The garden and the star are speaking, these two right here are speaking to you about an opportunity through visibility or your community. And this star and the ring is also saying that there's support and it's hopeful. So what is not fully recognized is that the value of your network and your public presence, basically. And your future improvement will appear through having a clear vision. Okay, we're going to begin with the columns, with the heart, the whip, and the garden. Here we can say the heart in the past position. We're looking at a cherished financial goal or that emotionally motivated decision. The whip neck below it is that pressure or repeated effort around the goal. And the garden, that's that community. Or it could be just professional visibility beneath being beneath the struggle that's happening with the finances. You could say that something you deeply value may have become associated with financial strain. And the way forward is not necessarily to abandon your goals, but you may stop carrying it alone and engage in the right community or audience or professional environment for support. Our center columns, we have the rider, the mouse, and the star. So the rider is that news or could be opportunity created through movement. The mouse in the present, some of the benefit from that movement that the rider gave you is currently being reduced or consumed. Remember the little nibbler. The star is your future influence. This is a really positive card that it's capable of overriding that little nibbler mouse. So with that mouse and star next to each other, the star does not deny the loss, but it suggests that the difficult phase can be overcome. Here you want to look for an earlier opportunity, let's say that may not have been producing much value as you may have expected, or the benefits could have been leaking away. This is the spread's real turning point. Clarity and long-term vision, it can totally help to reverse the whole erosion part. That's clarity and long-term vision. The right column with the stork, the snake, and the ring. The stork is, again, movement, and it's in the above position. It's kind of saying to you, hey, you know, change is necessary. Of course, nobody likes it, but change is necessary. And that snake in the challenge position is saying that this change requires wisdom and caution and some strategy. The ring in your outcome is a commitment or agreement that will likely become the destination. I'm looking at the snake beside the ring, these two here. They can qualify a commitment and definitely calls for close examination. So basically, you got a financial agreement that may change or a new commitment that may be considered. And remember, read every term carefully, avoid pressure, and make sure that that agreement supports your long-term interest rather than just looking good like the shiny object. Next, we're going to go to the diagonal, and we're going to go to the heart and the mouse and the ring. Here we're looking at the heart in the past, possibly emotional value or an attachment shaped by some earlier financial decisions. The mouse could be reflecting that an attachment that may now be costing you, like it wasn't expected. The ring, the ring is saying, hey, the pattern can become repeated unless consciously revised. Unless you revise the pattern that you're in, it will remain the same. Consciously, you can take corrective action. The heart here with the mouse, this is describing something that's costing you emotionally or financially. And that ring down there is a strong bond. So you have a cherished goal, or perhaps you a purchase or a relationship or some kind of commitment that may be quietly draining you and your resources. So before you renew or deepen that commitment, ask whether it still reflects your values, that your values in a financially sustainable way. I mean, is this healthy for you and your finances? Next, we're going to look at the stork, the mouse, and the garden. The stork in the above is saying that a recognized need for change. This is something you already know. This isn't a new thing. You already know that change needs to occur. The mouse in the present that is kind of saying, hey, you know you need change because you've got leakage or strain, and that's why you need to make that change. The garden, well, there's in the below position, that could be the solution. And it may involve that networking that we were talking about, whether it's a public setting or workplace, but the solution may involve that. There's also indication here with that stork and garden being in the same diagonal, it may indicate an important invitation. So that may come with that networking, right? You may get some invitations that would help you. And this financial strain, it may push you toward an actual new community, or perhaps a professional setting or an event. But the financial strain is what is your motivator. So keep an eye out for an invitation or a connection that could help you out and move the situation forward. Just remember, you should evaluate everything carefully and don't accept anything from urgency. Okay, here's what stands out is the contrast between the mouse at the center and the star moving into the future. Something is steadily reducing your money, your time, your confidence, or your earning power. The whip and the snake show that this may be tied to repeating pressure or a complicated arrangement or financial details that require greater caution. The deeper pattern under this is emotional. The heart in the past suggests that money has been connected to something genuinely meaningful. Yet that heart, mouse, and ring warn that loyalty to a goal or an agreement, a lifestyle, or an obligation, something like that, can really cost. It can really cost if it's just maintained on autopilot. So these cards are not asking you to stop caring by any means. They are asking you to distinguish devotion from financial depletion. Your strongest support in this reading comes from the garden and the star. That's that community, networking, collaboration, or the right professional environment that may open the next thing, during your next stage through your process. The rider and the stork reinforce movement, suggesting that the situation is not meant to remain stagnant. So there's going to be news or an invitation or change in direction, and that will start restoring the momentum for you. The ring, as an outcome, suggests a more stable commitment if you handle the present pattern wisely. If you recall, wisdom came up in here. So this could be an agreement that you get, a contract, a partnership. There's many things. Income arrangement, or just a disciplined commitment to your own financial plan. The snake is in that challenge position, so don't go rush any kind of commitment. Verify details, protect your information, and always ensure that any agreement benefits you over time. If the present pattern continues with greater awareness, the direction will not be uncontrolled, like feelings of loss. It's a movement from leakage into a clearer vision, then into something sustainable. So the whole reading is supporting practical review of things, stronger boundaries, thoughtful networking, and commitments built on verified value rather than emotional pressure. And always remember, the cards remain reflective rather than guaranteed financial advice. What I would like to leave you with is a question, just something to think about. Ask yourself, what recurring expense, obligation, or agreement is quietly reducing your abundance, and what wiser commitment could replace it? What recurring expense, obligation, or agreement is quietly reducing your abundance, and what wiser commitment could replace it? Thank you for joining me here at Open Lotus Wisdom. Always remember to be kind to yourself, with gratitude. If this reading meant something to you, subscribing helps, or share it with someone who you might think needs it today. And I will see you at the next reading. Thank you.